everyone, welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karbasfrooshan to answer the question, can you design culture? That is company culture. So, can you?
Well, there was a tweet, Alex Osterwalder, who wrote, quote, "A company's culture needs to be designed, managed, rigorously defended. When you start making compromises, it all falls apart. Too many companies let culture just happen. Everybody needs to work together towards a desired and shared company culture. It's everybody's job," end quote. What do you think of that?
So, I feel like we're going to have a really big debate about this because I fervently agree with him.
Okay, so first of all, did you see my
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't. Why do you think I
almost
disagree?
argued with you on Twitter.
You should have. Oh, because you don't do it in person or on camera, but you're not going to do it on Twitter. Wait, what part? I agree. There's one word that I
can't remember
semantics.
what you said now.
Semantics. I said, to me, design is something you plan and then you kind of construct, but it's rigid. Like you do it once, and then you kind of almost walk away with it. Like you may need to touch up a building, but you design a building.
Okay.
And what I said, basically, my beef was, I don't actually think you could design it. What I said was, that's why I agree with it, totally.
Okay, I misinterpreted
No,
you.
what I just said was, it's not something that you could plan in abstract and just think that then you kind of carve it in like clay and it stands. So I agreed with them. It was we in the end said it's the word design, because what I said was, I go, it does start with, this is actually, as much as I'm all about team, but generally speaking, if it's a startup, let's first talk about that, there's a person or there's a group of founders. So I do think that ultimately it starts with their morals, their principles, and they need to come up with a culture that reflects who they are, because you can't design it and it's in clay. It will always get tested, and the way that then you kind of react to those challenges and tests is if you are full of shit or you are legitimately sincere. Now, if it's
I just interpret design is you have to be hands-on about
of course,
it. Like
yeah,
you can't
proactive.
just let it happen.
No, of course, no, that we agree. But my point was, I took this more as like, the rigorously defended, but I don't think, my point is, I don't actually think you could put that much thought into it relative to the ongoing aspect of holding it together. Like, I feel the design, you could say what you want about like what your vision is, which is like what you want to be, and then what your mission is, which is how you're going to get there. But it's moot compared to the everyday struggle. It's a bit like you could want to be in shape, but if you eat 6 cheeseburgers and you never hit the gym, you're not going to be in shape, right? So my point was, forget about the design. Sometimes people get too caught up with like what we want to be, and they carve it literally in stone, put it on their wall, but they never actually follow through with that. So my point was that. That's what I was kind of...
Okay. I read this article, and I wish I had reread it more recently than I have. But it was about this company that needed to revamp their company culture. So they like brought in specialists, and they interviewed people, and blah, blah, blah. And they came up with not like bullet point mission statement-y statements. And they decided to live by them. And everyone was really embodying them. But it had unintended effects.
Such as?
This is the problem with my memory.
Is memory loss a symptom of coronavirus?
Oh,
I'm
right.
sorry, I'm kidding.
No. It was, I think one of them was it kind of put the onus on the wrong people to speak up, or
well, to that point...
honestly, it was a really good article. So once they revamped it, they had to revamp it because within a year they were like, this isn't working at all.
But that's a great point, that sometimes I do think, like what I said, I'm not going to flip-flop, like I think for a startup, it starts with the founder or the CEO, whoever, because it starts with there, and that person has to ultimately maintain it. But then you got to let this go. And so I feel that then, do you have a culture, and do you encourage a certain type of communication that if your decisions and your tactics and even your strategy, but the way you day-to-day conduct yourself, if they don't support the culture that you're trying to build, you need to have a culture and a vibe in your company. People have to be comfortable to then call out the leaders. So my point is, it may start from somebody, because that person ultimately is the decider on, do we do this, do we do that? It's like, how do we treat a client? How do we treat an employee? Which then leads to what the culture is. But if you just put it on a big shiny sign, but then there's like this fear, like one thing about Mayor Bloomberg, what they noticed about his debate performance was that, I forgot who said it, but I was like, this is the exact right takeaway.
This is a guy who hasn't been challenged.
This is a guy who has not been challenged by his group, so he's caught off guard. I like to think, I am so like nonstop, like so many people in this company, I've almost created a monster, but I wouldn't change that. And again, we all have our faults. Yesterday, I told an employee, I called the person in, and I said, hey, I just want to thank you for your response to this email, not because of necessarily what you said, but because you spoke up, and it's very easy for people to not say anything, but it was a different point of view. It was right, but even if I didn't agree with it, it was really good for me to hear it because that perspective is not one that usually people speak up about. I don't want to say too much because I'm not sure if this person would. But the point was, I just wanted to condition them to kind of like speak up and tell me. And so ultimately, I think that is my ultimate point, which was you got to also create the environment where people challenge and test it, and it's like a constant calibration of what you set out, very lofty, idealistic, and it's ultimately always challenged because things suck, and there's always surprises, and there's always like things that you didn't expect, and it's really easy to be lazy and take the shortcut when nobody's looking. What was that thing? Integrity is what you do when no one's looking, or character is how you treat people when they have nothing to offer you. And that's ultimately what culture comes down to. Culture is like not what you design it to be, but it's more about when you actually really, really don't want to do the right thing, doing the right thing.
Okay. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next time.